Imagine an intergalactic market where cargo ships from 1,000 different worlds flow in and out of a planet's atmosphere without a single tax, delay, or restriction. This is the theoretical ideal of free trade. By letting everyone specialize in what they do best and exchange goods freely, efficiency maxes out and prices drop. But suddenly, a planet flips a switch. A glowing energy shield envelops the atmosphere, bouncing cargo ships away or forcing them to pay massive tolls just to land. Here on Earth, governments raise these exact same shields. We just call them trade barriers. A tariff acts as a toll, taxing imported goods. A quota puts a strict numerical limit on how much can enter, and an embargo is a complete ban on trade. If free trade is accepted as the most efficient way to run a global economy, why would a government intentionally block foreign products and drive up costs for its own citizens? Protectionism is a deliberate strategy. Governments deploy these tools methodically to defend their domestic economies against three specific categories of macroeconomic threats. The first category is the industrial shield. This applies when a country's own businesses are either too young to fight, too old to survive, or too vital to lose. This chart shows the infant industry argument. A newly established domestic company simply cannot compete with massive foreign corporations right away. But as the firm expands and produces more units, its average costs drop down this curve, a concept called economies of scale. Temporary tariffs give the young industry a protective bubble to grow into those lower costs. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have declining or sunset industries. These are older sectors that have lost their competitive edge and are inevitably going out of business. If the government lets these industries fail instantly, the economy suffers a massive, sudden spike in unemployment. By throwing up a temporary trade barrier, the state slows the collapse, giving workers time to retire or transition into new jobs instead of hitting the streets overnight. Then there is the strategic industry exception. Governments will often protect highly inefficient domestic producers of food, fuel, or weapons. Relying entirely on foreign countries for the base resources you need to survive is a massive national security risk. In all these cases, the industrial shield represents a calculated trade-off. The government willingly sacrifices short-term economic efficiency to secure long-term domestic stability. The second category is the societal shield. Here, trade restrictions are deployed to block hostile economic attacks and physically harmful imports. One of the most aggressive economic attacks is predatory dumping. This happens when a foreign firm deliberately exports and sells its products at a price lower than what it costs to make them. They take a deliberate short-term loss to drive local domestic businesses into bankruptcy and seize a total monopoly. This triggers fierce international disputes. The European Union, for example, accused China of dumping highly subsidized glass solar panels onto the European market, severely undercutting local tech manufacturers. It happens in agriculture, too. The USA has accused Vietnam of dumping massive quantities of raw shrimp at artificially low prices, threatening the survival of domestic fishing fleets. Beyond hostile pricing, governments also use embargoes and strict technical standards to block what economists call demerit goods. These are imports deemed directly harmful to public health or the environment, like dangerous chemicals or unregulated pharmaceuticals. The societal shield shows that trade protection heavily functions as a regulatory tool to ensure public safety and enforce fair play in the global market. The third and final category is the accounting shield. Sometimes trade barriers are erected strictly to fix the math on a nation's balance sheet. When an economy spends significantly more money importing foreign goods than it earns from exporting its own, it runs a current account deficit. The country is bleeding currency, which drags down overall demand and can easily trigger a recession. This map illustrates how tariffs and quotas act as a financial tourniquet. By artificially raising the price of imported goods, the government forces citizens to buy local products instead. The outward flow of money stops, and currency begins circulating domestically again. Tariffs also provide a highly lucrative secondary benefit. They generate massive amounts of direct tax revenue for the government. For instance, India imposes a strict tariff of $535 per 10 grams on imported gold. Because gold is highly sought after, buyers willingly pay the premium, funneling massive streams of tax revenue straight into the government's coffers. When domestic demand for foreign goods gets out of control, protectionism offers a fast, heavy-handed way to balance the national checkbook. While these planetary shields are highly effective defensive tools for individual nations, a galaxy where every planet restricts trade quickly grinds to a halt. For domestic citizens, protectionism guarantees fewer choices and higher prices at the checkout counter. And because local monopolies are sheltered from global competition, they often lose the incentive to innovate or lower their own costs. On an international level, protectionism sparks trade wars. One country imposes a tariff, the targeted country retaliates with its own restrictions, and global output plummets. This visual equation highlights a crucial distinction for your economics exams. Increasing a tariff increases protection. But with a quota, reducing the numerical limit actually increases the level of trade protection because you are strictly allowing fewer foreign goods into the country. Trade barriers are powerful medicine for an ailing economy, but if a government overprescribes them, the cure quickly becomes worse than the disease.